Hey, good morning. Steve here, and we're going to get right to it. I have a lens I'm going to share with you and method to the madness behind purchasing it. And this is the 200 to 400 F4 Lis 1.4. I'm going to do a quick walkthrough on this and share my experiences with it so far, some results, some images, and just kind of go through what this lens is all about. And the first thing I want to share with you regarding that bad boy is you're probably asking yourselves, why on earth would you ever buy something like that? The first answer is because I could. And no, I did not buy this new. I haven't bought a new lens in a very long time, since I was doing wedding photography. And the lens I started out with in regards to like wildlife, small bird photography, was a Tamron. I think it was a 150 to 600. It was the SPG2 lens. And let me pull it up here on the screen quick. So it was this lens right here, the 150 to 600 DIVC USD G2. It's an f5 to 6.3 variable aperture zoom. And I had a very difficult time getting a sharp image with that lens. My success rate, hit rate, was about 10 to 20% on successful captures with that lens. I tried everything. I tried micro adjustments. No, I did not try the docking station. I can't remember what it's called. I got very frustrated. And I thought to myself, dude, you were doing wedding photography for a living. I was using an older Sigma, I think it was a 70 or 80 to 200 zoom APO. I really liked that lens. And I was using a 24 to 105 F4 Lis Canon, and also a 100 to 400 Generation 1 Canon. What was that? F4 to 5.6, the L series. It was a Gen 1. It was not the Mark II. And I never had an issue in getting successful captures. My hit rates were about 99% on those lenses, working at speed in weddings. So no, I'm not that inept at capturing images on the fly. I could not get, very, very difficult to get a good image. Very high hit rate on captures while doing birds. So I decided I sent that lens back. I bought it used, and I found this used. I bought it from a gentleman out in, I think it was Idaho, maybe, somewhere out in the mountains out west. And he used it. He captured some stunning images with this lens, owls, stuff like that. Amazing. And my hit rate went from 10 to 20% to about 90% just by going to this glass. Now, this is a constant aperture f4, and the unique thing about this lens is that it has a built-in 1.4x teleconverter. You just flip the switch right there, and it puts the teleconverter in line. And the interesting thing is this teleconverter was built into the lens and is designed and matched to this lens, all of the elements in this lens. And general consensus is that this lens is as sharp as a 400mm f2.8, and it's a 200-400 zoom. Now, you're probably saying, well, why didn't you just get a 500mm f4? Well, I've always been a big fan of zooms, and this is just a personal thing, just because of the nature of the type of work I used to do. And nothing frustrates me more than having too long of a focal length and not being able to zoom out and having to cut something off, or, if you're talking birds, you cut the tails off or something like that if you're dealing with birds in flight. And if the bird is unusually close or if it's large, you're kind of stuck. You have to go for like a headshot or something. And that's, not something I'm willing to compromise on. It does add an element of complexity with having to zoom it. So right here, this is the zoom ring. It's fairly short throw. This is your focus ring for manual focusing. It does have 4 buttons on here, up here on this ring, which I believe they're for focus preset, but don't hold me to that. It is an image stabilized lens. And so you have your different stabilization modes, 1, 2, and 3. And you can, I'm not going to go into that. Anybody who knows anything about the different stabilizer modes and all the different lenses, they all basically do the same thing. I run this on 1, except if I'm tracking birds on horizontal plane, then I'll switch it to 2. Stabilization mode on or off. Focus preset. Set button is right here. And the on-off switch is right here. With that, of course, you've got the 1.4x teleconverter. You can lock this in place just by flipping that little button. I wouldn't do that. Standard focal length is here. 1.4x is there. And you have your autofocus modes, autofocus, PF, MF, manual focus, and then you have your focus distance range from 8 meters to infinity or full. That's something that's kind of important because if you have, like, the blind that I use where it's set up is approximately 15 feet from the nearest point where birds will be, and then they go out to 30 feet, I would say probably 25 feet, maybe a little bit more in distance from where the blind is, where I'm sitting. And then out on the north end of the house, I have another setup out there, and that's a little bit further away. That's about 40 feet. So that's kind of a handy feature. If you want it to focus in close, it'll enable it to do that. Now, the guy I bought it from had a Leo photo foot on here, and the Leo photos are really nice. It's an Arca Swiss, and of course, it came with two different factory tripod feet. And what I found was the Leophoto foot sits very low to the lens, and I couldn't get my fingers in. And I carry this lens by the foot. And this has like a little pad right here. You can see. And that's for carrying. And the Leophoto foot prevented me from actually carrying it like this or whatever, right? So I didn't really like that. But this lens is amazing. Now, what I disliked about, another thing I disliked about the Tamron is a variable aperture. Sorry about the squeaky chair. The variable aperture is, I shoot a lot in low light. The sun is never out here. And all the images I'm going to show you, I think there's maybe one that is in sunlight, and it's not even direct sunlight, it's backlit, which I kind of like, and I'll get into that another time. But from a portrait photography standpoint, I'm kind of approaching the birds from the same standpoint. So any light is the most important thing in photography, right? We all know that. And cloud cover, if you have to deal with cloud cover, low light conditions, it produces a very soft box effect. And it's very flattering light, generally. However, oftentimes it's more difficult to make the images really pop compared to, let's say the sun is low on the horizon, and you get that nice amber glow to the light. But it's direct, it's still direct, but it's lower and it's not from overhead. Excuse me. And that's not really, I got a cold going. That's not, the overhead light's not the most flattering light, right? We all know that. So I wanted a lens that was great in low light, that you could run wide open. And F4, you can run this lens at F4 wide open, and it's just as sharp as if it was at F8, F9, F11. It's a crackerjack. Of course, depth of field will suffer a little bit, right? And especially when you consider the focal length of the lens, which I'm going to get into. So let's get over to the other, I'll get over to Darktable here. Okay, so this is Blue Jay I took with this lens. And over on the left-hand side, you can see the image information, the capture information. So this was on the EOS 90D. This is the 200 to 400. And my aperture was at a f6.3, exposure at 800. Here's the catch. This is what I wanted to go over, and I mentioned this in the previous video. There's a method to my madness here. These birds, aside from blue jay, a lot of these birds, let's say song sparrows, buntings, let's say warblers, goldfinches, chickadees, a lot of these birds are very small, right? So being able to reach out and touch them is very important. So I wanted the maximum amount of focal length I could get. And so if you look at this data on the left-hand side, this was focal length. It shows 560 meters. The reason why it does that, now this is a 200 to 400, and this is all, and I'm going to approach this from a layman's point of view. For folks that don't really know, maybe they're just getting into this, and this is what this channel is really about. Like I said, I am not a professional. I don't consider myself a professional photographer in this realm. But this is something to consider. So a 200 to 400 millimeter zoom which is what that lens is, I believe, I didn't run the numbers, but you have a 1.6 crop factor on the Canon 90D because it's an APS-C sensor, right? And this data calculates this. So you'll see the focal length at 560 millimeters. Now that is with the 1.4 teleconverter in line. Okay, the 500, so it goes from 400 millimeters to 560 millimeters with a 1.4x teleconverter engaged. But the 35 millimeter equivalent is 904.9 millimeters. So this image, let me pop the crop out here. So that is uncropped. That's uncropped. That's the image to the sensor with no crop, and this is the crop. So this uncropped is the 35 millimeter equivalent with a 1.6 crop factor on the sensor and a 1.4x teleconverter gives you about 905 millimeter. That is awesome. See what I'm talking about? Now, I wasn't that far away. I was about, I would say 20 feet, 25 feet away. Not a long ways away from him. And yet, I could not fill the frame, the entire frame with him, even at 905 millimeter. So I'll just share some more images and I'll go through some of the data. This is another one I grabbed. And this is uncropped. Okay, that is uncropped. That is cropped. Okay, in the vignette, I put a vignette on these, so no, it's not the lens. The lens does not vignette like that. So again, this is 560 millimeter with a 1.4x teleconverter engaged inside the lens, about 905 millimeter, 1/800th of a second, f6.3, and 1/1000 ISO. Let's grab another image here. This is a dark-eyed Junco that I grabbed. Now this is cropped, so we'll go out on the crop. That's uncropped. And he was about, I would say, 12 feet away on a huge moss-covered rock. Again, 905 millimeter, 35 millimeter equivalent. And exposure was 1/800th of a second, f6.3. And crop factor gives you is 1.6, ISO 500. Lens is very sharp. It's ridiculous. This lens is ridiculous. And like I said, the capture rate, this is only one capture. I can pretty much count on, if I know when I hit that shutter button, I'm 90% sure I whacked it. I mean, I got it. And with the Tamron, no. I mean, it was a total crapshoot. I just couldn't get couldn't get consistent captures on this. Let's go to, I can't remember what this, okay, let's check this one. Okay, this is Song Sparrow. Hold on for a second. So this is on the same rock. This is uncropped. Different part of the, sort of different part of the rock. Same thing, 905 millimeter. This was 1/800th of a second, f6.3, ISO 500. Now this was direct low light coming in from the left-hand side, and he was looking into it, and he stood up and kind of puffed up. And right when he did that, I hit it. Boom. One capture. Wham. Got him. So, again, you'll ask yourself, well, why would you invest in a lens like that? Now, this lens new was, I think, anywhere from 10 to 12 grand, something like that. I would never buy this new. But, yeah, I'm into it to have fun. And there's a limit to the frustration, right? The equipment does matter sometimes, but the whole point is take what you got, get out there, and shoot the living daylights out of it. That's what I would do. Let's grab another one here. So this is, I'm very unhappy with the background, but this was a great capture. This is a purple grackle. This is a grackle. Now, to the naked eye, remember what I said in the last video, in the intro? To the naked eye, in real time, you would never see. I have never seen the colors and the different patterns in the feathers on this bird, and I've seen a lot of grackles before. I mean, this is just stunning. It's another example of this lens is just phenomenal. The saturation, the color it captures. Let's go. I don't know if I showed you this one. This was kind of an interesting capture. This was same thing, 905 millimeters, f6.3. I always stop it down just a little bit if I can. Sharpness is off the charts. It's really, really good. This is kind of I really like this capture, although a lot of people will balk at it because it's this one right here. Oh well, there's no light on the bird. Well, I don't care. I don't care. Oftentimes when you shoot backlit subjects, you get a nice rim light that goes around the subject. And would a fill flash have helped? Yes, probably. But I would have wanted the fill flash very, very low. We're talking very low, because I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movies. When you watch a movie, this is what I'm going to challenge everybody to do, because this is what helped teach me how I learned wedding photography, how to properly light subjects. I used 3-point and 4-point lighting. A lot of people call it cinematic lighting. I know. I think a guy that I learned from, Rick Delorme, I think he patented that term, cinematic lighting. If you watch a movie and you look at the directionality of the light in the cinematography, look at that really close. You can apply that to bird photography. You can apply it to anything. And, you'll see backlights, hair lights. You'll see lights at angles. Very rarely, almost never, you see light applied in cinematography, in cinematic lighting, as direct, flat frontal lighting. It is the most unflattering lighting you can have. Okay, so again, the same thing. Same exact setup. This was the 1.4x engaged. No crop. Beautiful, isn't it? It's just really nice. Let's see. Let's scoot along here. Don't know about this guy. Yep, this is Morning Dove. Morning Dove. Very pretty. Let's get over to most of these are just raw captures. Haven't done anything with them. Those were all processed, by the way. They're all processed, mild processing, just to sweeten them up a little bit. Let's see. What am I on? I'm on birds. Let's grab this. Something I've been trying to do is capture, come on, My fingers are freezing cold and they don't work. So I've been trying to capture, instead of just a portrait type thing, try to capture some of the characteristics, the behaviors of the birds. And this is something I'm learning about. I'm learning about all the different birds, how they behave at the stations. How do they stage? They oftentimes will fly into the same branch. I know, excuse me, I'm straying from the lens stuff, but this is the lens. Now this was shot without the 1.4x engaged, and the 35 millimeter equivalent was 646 millimeters, roughly 1/800th of a second, aperture at f4. So this was wide open. You can see that, yeah, wide open. This thing's a banger. Let's see. Oh, skip something. Yeah. This is another one of the Grackle. This is same lens, 400 millimeter, no teleconverter, f4, 1.6 crop factor, with a 35 millimeter equivalent of 646.3 millimeters, ISO 500. This is a very fun capture. Yes, that is his real eye. It's what their eye does when they do that crazy. He was squawking, and he'd start puffing up. This is a Grackle as well. He'd start puffing up really big. And I saw him do it. I thought, what the heck is that? And so I waited for him to do it again. And again, I took a series of captures, 3 individual captures, and he doesn't do this instantly. This takes a period of 5 to 10 seconds for him to do this. And again, f4, 1/800th of a second, 1000 ISO, 646.3 millimeters, 35 millimeter equivalent, with a 1.6 crop factor at 400 millimeters, no 1.4x. And their eyes, I don't know if they have if they roll their eyes up into their head when they do this. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Really creepy, but I love it. Yeah. So I think let's go back down through here, see if there's another one. I thought this was cute. So that is a raw capture out of the camera. That's a goldfinch. And that was that's with the teleconverter engaged, so that was about 905 millimeter. And that's the raw cast. See how tiny these birds are? He was only about 12 feet away, 12, 13 feet away. Yeah. This is a downy woodpecker, female. She is on the stick. On the stick. Uncropped. Cropped. This was 905 millimeter with a 1.4x, and she's about, well, with the height, because she's kind of up the pole there. And I'll be going into how I set this up. This is to attract them, and they love this thing. This is homemade suet, peanut butter suet, that I drill out the holes in this. I go find a small, 4-inch, 6-inch diameter log, an old log, and cut it. So it's about, 12 feet tall, 15 feet tall. And I just lay it up against another tree or something. and I drill it out with a spade bit, and I pack homemade suet into these holes, and they go nuts on this. So, scroll down here. There was a funny woodpecker, not a woodpecker, but a I don't know where it is. See if I can find it here. As you can tell, guys, there is no production to this whatsoever. I don't do a lot of production type stuff. I don't have time. Oh. Gotta show you my favorite bird. The nuthatch. I love the nuthatches. Have you guys ever asked yourselves the question? This was with 200 to 400 as well. 1250th of a second, f5.6. This was wide open with a 1.4x teleconverter, 905 millimeter. Have you guys ever asked yourselves the question, how the heck could a bird spend his entire life upside down? Crazy, isn't it? I love them. They're so fun. They're so fun to watch. Just ridiculous. Let's see if I can find... Where are you? Of course, I haven't had the time to set up the labels and everything yet. Come on now. Oh, there it is. Check that out. Oh. Yeah, you want to see how sharp this freaking lens is, man. This is nutty. Look at the whiskers. You can see the whiskers on him. Now, this was at 6.3. F6.3, what do we got? 436 millimeter. 35 millimeter equivalent, 704. So this was with, I believe this was with the 1.4x engaged. So there's virtually no difference. It doesn't degrade the image at all. You know, pretty cool. Pretty cool. It's a rock and roll machine. Anyways, I know that was a little longer than what I wanted to go, but I just wanted to show you some images that were captured with it, because what good is it if you don't show what it does, right? So, have a good day, you guys. I'll be back. I have some images I'll share regarding the Tamron 70 to 200 2.8, the G2, which I really, really love. That's a crackerjack of a lens too. This guy, yeah. Like I said, hit rate. It's all about the hit rate. And I am too old to be frustrated at this point. At 60 years old, that dog won't hunt. Not telling you guys to go out and do that, to buy that, but or something like that, but made all the difference to me in the world. Anyways, we will see you all later. Have a great day, and thanks for stopping by and watching. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe button if you want to. The like button helps, I guess, helps with the algorithm and stuff, helps push this stuff out there. And there was one more thing. By the way, you know when I was talking about the foot? This foot, this plate, this Arca Swiss plate came with the lightweight gimbal. For a lens like this, you want a fairly long plate so you can properly get it seated properly into the gimbal head. My advice would be don't go with a short plate. Fortunately, that gimbal came with this long plate, which goes almost the entire length of the foot. And a very large part of this plate is in the gimbal head, the clamp, and the Arca Swiss mount. Very good. The other thing is, this has dual mounting screws. You don't want a plate that has one mounting screw, because no matter how tight, with a lens this large, no matter how tight you tighten down those screws, if it's just got one screw in the foot, it's going to twist. And you'll look and the whole lens will be like twisted. So, just another thing. Experience, right? Catch you all later. Take care, folks.